There are discoveries a man may explain to his wife, and discoveries he may not. This one belonged firmly to the second kind.
Kovalyov.
You shaved someone yesterday.
I did nothing.
That is never a comfort.
She had her opinion on the matter.
Get rid of it.
He, for his sins, had the street. Ivan Yakovlevich was a barber. Ordinarily, this was innocent enough. That morning, it was evidence. The city was full of debt, vanity, cold, and a mild general despair. It offered, however, remarkably few respectable places to abandon a nose.
Your hands stink, Ivan.
What the river received, the river kept, but the man who had lost it, a clerk of small ambitions named Kovalyov, was at that moment waking on the other side of the city, with no inkling yet of what he had mislaid. He called himself Major. Officially, he was a civil servant of the 8th class, but Major sounded better in shops, in doorways, and in the presence of women. That morning, the mirror refused the promotion. Where his nose had been, there was only a smooth, useless flatness. No rank, no title, nothing with which to enter society. For another man, this might have been a medical concern. For Kovalyov, it was social ruin. The city woke as it always did. Boots were polished, forms were stamped, men bowed to other men, in the exact measure their ranks required, and not 1 degree further. That morning, Kovalyov went to the police. A disappearance of this nature demanded paperwork, authority, and, above all, discretion. But he never reached the police. Across the street, a carriage door opened. The gentleman who emerged, and there is no other way to describe him, was a man of considerable standing, 3 classes higher, in fact, than the man watching him from the opposite pavement. It was not merely walking about without him, it had been promoted. Kovalyov approached the way a lesser rank approaches a greater one, with all the courage he could afford, which was not a great deal.
Sir, forgive me, but you are my nose.
You are mistaken, sir. We appear to belong to entirely different departments.
The nose turned away, not rudely. Rudeness, he could have answered.
That is impossible. You are my nose.
It turned away with something far worse, and far more final. It turned away with indifference. There remained, of course, the proper channels. The Bureau of Petitions required a medical certificate proving the nose had ever been his. At the newspaper, he asked to place a notice. Missing, 1 nose.
We cannot print this.
They refused.
Why not?
It might, they explained, offend the better class of reader, and the better class of reader was the only kind they kept. He walked through the evening as a man already half erased. In public, the city remained perfectly respectable, but behind every fan, behind every carriage curtain, the same word had already fastened itself to his name.
Formally.
It was said with perfect manners, which made it considerably worse. The nose was caught, in the end, attempting to leave the city under a false name and forged papers. Kovalyov paid the fee and the handling, and a further sum entered in the ledger as moral inconvenience.
Thank you, sir.
But a thing returned is not a thing restored. He pressed it, he begged it. The nose declined to attach. It was perhaps the most eloquent it had ever been.
Come now, please.
The doctor came with clean instruments and genuine professional pleasure.
Remarkable.
His verdict, perfectly healthy and quite able to manage without it. As for the nose,
I propose keeping it in a jar, as a curiosity.
Kovalyov did not regard his own nose as a curiosity. The jar, however, had already been chosen. Night came down on the city as it comes upon the just and the unjust alike, and upon the partially assembled. Before him lay 1 candle, 1 mirror, and 1 nose entirely unemployed. And while he slept, the city went on without the smallest pause. Boots were polished, forms were stamped, men bowed to other men. And then, for reasons it never offered, and was never once asked to give, the nose simply returned, in the night, to its old position, as though it had merely been away on business. He laughed.
Ah, there you are, my friend.
A mourning of this importance required, of course, the proper ceremony, which is to say, the barber.
The usual, even.
As you wish, sir.
Carefully, even. Very carefully. And mind the nose.
I would not dare, sir.
Strange things happen in this world. Some are impossible. Some are merely improper.
Major Kovalyov, how well you look.
I am quite myself again.
Kovalyov believed himself entirely restored. Not to himself, perhaps, but to public use. He was almost entirely mistaken.